Hello and welcome to LaunchLeft. I'm Rain Phoenix. Happy 2022, second week of January of the new year. May this year be filled with joy and music and laughter and art and friendship and all good things. Why not? Let's imagine it. Let's make it real. I have a very special guest today. Norman Reedus is on the show. Such a cool human being. Great conversation. I really enjoyed it. He launched an artist, Jake Lamagno, at InstaStupid on Instagram. So check out his profile to see his work. Also, I wanted to just make a note that this year especially we'll be bringing on artists to launch other artists from across mediums. So not just music, we'll of course continue with music, but for example, Jake Lamagno is a sculptor and fine artist. So just wanted to give you a heads up of that. And also remind you, don't forget to rate and subscribe and follow us on all socials at LaunchLeft. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hi, Norman. Your schedule is wild. You seem like you love it. That was going to be my first question to you is what brings you the most joy? We'll start there and then we'll unpack.
Wow, what brings me the most joy? Well, my daughter right now brings me the most joy. I don't know. I've come to a place where I'm kind of in a good mood all the time. I think I came from a place where I was never in a good mood ever. I don't know. It's like, I don't know. It's not really a sense of accomplishment with this job or anything, but I think it's just getting older. I think I got older and I'm just grateful and in a better mood.
I've always been like glass half full person, I should say.
Oh, not me.
So yeah, no, I know many people. I actually tend to gravitate to the more grumpy person. For some reason, I really enjoy. A lot of my friends are more how you're describing your early days, grumpy and not happy with things. And I don't know why. Probably because opposites attract in that way. That I've become friends with many a grumpy person and enjoyed the friendship because I need that balancing act personally. Otherwise, I can be too like, it's all going to be okay. And so I need people to be like, no, it's going to suck to keep me balanced. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, as a kid, I was like that kid that would throw a brick through the window. Just, is anybody watching me? Just to get attention, I think. So yeah, I don't know. I've matured maybe.
Yeah.
Slightly.
We're from Florida. I didn't realize you're from Florida as well.
Yeah, I mean, I was born in Florida. I was born in Hollywood, Florida, and I think I lived there like 3 weeks. So,
okay. So it doesn't count. It doesn't count.
Yeah.
No, I was not born, but I lived there for like 15 years. So I kind of count that I was from Florida because it was formative teen years to like 25. Wow. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I did an episode of Ride, the motorcycle show.
Yeah.
That I was trying to get your brother on, which was hysterical. But we did the top of Florida to the bottom of Florida with Peter Fonda, right? And
wow.
Right, it was my very first episode, and we had a team of cops that would follow us, right, and block the freeway off so we could zip through lights and whatnot. And I was like, "Are we gonna go by Hollywood, Florida?" And he was like, "Why?" And I was like, because I was born there. Like, I haven't been there since, I was born. Can we see it? And he's like, you don't want to see Hollywood, Florida. And I was like, why? And he's like, trust me, you don't want to go there. And I was like, oh, man.
Well, good memories. Well, we were in Gainesville, so that's a whole different world. It's kind of like Georgia. Gainesville's like more, horse country.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so it's not like
I love it here. I have to. I'm like, I love it. I ride motorcycles in the country. It's just cows going by. It's funny coming here from New York. You would stop in and buy cigarettes somewhere or something like that, and they'd be like, "How's your day? The weather's going great. And what about them so and so's?" And you're like, "Man, fuck you! I ain't talking to you. Just give me the cigarettes. Can I go?" And after. Why are we having a conversation?
Right.
And after a while, it turned into me going, "Hey, how's your day? What the weather?" You know, I was like, "Oh man, I like these people. This is cool." So
I agree. I really like the southern states for that reason. It is important just to, hey, how you doing? There's something about that I really like, and I love Georgia. I spent a lot of time in Athens as well.
yeah,
And JMS.
yesterday was my birthday, and Michael calls me every birthday and sings me happy birthday in French.
Yeah. You're on that list too. I love that.
I assumed he sang as well. You know, the best message I got yesterday was from Paul Rubens. He sent me like a 5-minute video going, "You know what? I love you. Are you uncomfortable with that? So fucking what? I'll see you in court. Go ahead." I mean, it was the sweetest message. You know, I have 2 Pee Wee Herman dolls up on my thing up there, and I met him ages ago, and just I loved him. And I'm a big fan of Paul Rubens, but he's the first person that sends me a Merry Christmas card, a Happy New Year card. He's happy birthday, everything. He's a cool guy.
Recently, I was going through like an old storage container, but I ran across photos of all of us in New York hanging out. Like that reminded me of the you I did know of then, which is different than the you I know of now.
Yeah.
And within that, you took photos. Like that's what you did, and they're beautiful. And I love hearing that you have a show at Copenhagen. And here's a question I have that is probably: how annoying was it for you, or did you not actually write like an artist statement for your show in Copenhagen? Did you have to write an artist statement?
I didn't. I always ask people to do. Like, I have a couple of books out, and I think I got Debbie Harry to do one. I think Mick Rock, rest in peace, did one. I've had people do them for me. I fucking hate it. And I just wrote a book as well, right, during when the COVID thing first hit, and I was stuck in the house, and I wrote a book, right? So I started this production company.
What's it called?
It's called Big Bald Head, right? I'm like Big Bald Head on everything, which there's a story behind the Big Bald Head. But the idea is that, I've wanted to tell these certain stories, and the idea is that I write a book, I own the IP, I want to make it into a television show, right? And I took all these different ideas and different things that have happened, who've morphed in my mind into different things, and I crammed them all together in a book, right? And now, the artist statement, they're like, "So who should we send a list out to ask for artist statements?" And I'm like, you're asking them to read a whole fucking book. And then, it's not like listen to a song and then it's over and then say something great about it. Like, you got to read a book. Like, I'm giving them homework. I'm like, can we scrap this? And they've been on me forever. And I'm like, none of my friends are going to want to read this fucking book. Like, you have a week to read it and then write something. I'd be like, fuck you, it's weird, the avenues you go down, and then the people that think they know you, and they're like, "Oh, you're about this, and let's sell this on what we think of you." And you're like, "I'm not like that at all, really." And I'm starting a whiskey, right? I don't even drink whiskey anymore. That was like something I kind of did like in my 20s, but it's like motorcycles, the number of companies are like, "We need to make a Norman motorcycle boot." And I'm like, I wear Vans when I ride, it's like Sylvester Stallone, who's a good painter, right? And, I'm sure people are like, "What do you paint? Like Rocky Balboa gloves?" And he's like, "God damn it." You know what I mean? Like, like Richard Butler from the Psychedelic Furs, great painter, like amazing, and I don't know. You can blend the different worlds and still people don't know what you're really about. They just, he's a redneck who shoots a crossbow at zombies. Let's, write something about zombies on your thing. You're like, I didn't take any pictures of zombies. It's, it is what it is, but people don't really get to know you Your friends do. Mick does. Debbie does. But the world, I don't know. Sometimes I have to wave my hand really high and be like, no, 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 no. You know. So.
Well, it's nice you have the freedom now to create a production company, to write a book, just to when you feel comfortable sharing who you really are, you have that freedom, you know, because you've worked your ass off to get it, to have that, you know, ability now. So that's beautiful. Like now you can, when you feel like it, you don't have to do it for 5 years if you don't want to, right? But you have a place that you can put what you care about, and nobody can tell you, well, this seems more like you, Norman. And it's like, well, actually, I'm going to just, you know.
I kind of like to do it through other people. If that, you know, like this is one of our projects. We have Faster Pussycat Kill Kill. I'm trying to make that into a television show. I got the rights to it. You know that? Do you know that movie?
Yeah, I've totally heard. Yeah, I don't think I've seen it, or maybe I did. But
oh my God, it's one of Russ Meyer's film. And
I'm gonna watch it now.
It's fucking great. It's like I used to wear the T-shirt in high school. Like it's a cool film, and now I have the rights to it. You know, and I kind of don't want it to be about me. I kind of just want to pick the actresses and the writers and the directors and have them do it. And you can, if you want to include me in there somewhere, just include me in who I chose to do it. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I'm a big fan of collaboration, and you know what I mean? Like, I don't have, you know, I just want to see what you do, and like, yeah, I believe in you. You can do it, and rather than that's my thing, I'm doing the fucking thing, you know. So
yeah, well, that is your thing. See, that's what I mean. Is now you have the freedom to freaking help support other artists and help be behind the scenes. The fact is, it doesn't have to be some manufactured thing or other people thinking you know, let's put him in the spotlight for that. You get to make this call now, and that's beautiful to have that freedom. And who would have thought? I mean, I'm guessing you didn't think that AMC's Walking Dead, when you first were making it, was going to bring you this far.
I thought it was going to be in like 3 episodes, and I was cool with it, to be honest. Yeah. You know, I did that pilot season, you know, in LA, where you go and you see all the television shows, and I was loving TV. Like I liked Mad Men and Breaking Bad and all the shows, and you know, I go to LA for my first TV thing, because back in the day, like nobody did TV. It was like if you got a TV show, they'd be like, keep trying, you know. And all of a sudden, TV got really good, and so I went out there, and you sit down with all those suits, and you're like, whatever, and they give you like this many scripts, and you're like, doctor show, roommate show, doctor show. And there's this zombie one, and I was like, oh, this one's great. And everyone's like, no. That's a mistake. And I'm like, no, I'd watch this one. And they're like, no. And I was like, oh, it's the same company that does Breaking Bad. I love Breaking Bad and Mad Men. And, you know, and it had good people in it, like Galen Hurd and Frank Darabont, all these great people. And so I was like, I just focused on this, and everybody's like, oh, you know, this was a disaster. And I went in and they kind of strung me along for a while. And then I went back to New York, and they had me come in for one of the roles that I knew was already cast, right? And then they said, Frank wrote a part for you. And I was like, fuck yeah. But I had no idea, you know, 11 years in, I'd still be doing it, you know, and I love it too. I'm like, you know, people are like, aren't you ready to do something else? I'm like, no, I like this. This is great. You know,
you're so awesome.
I'm like one of those people, like if I was on Jeopardy and I won like the first round for $100, I'd be like, later. I don't think I'd go for the jackpot. I'd be like, great. I'd be so stoked. Yeah.
Well, you're so freaking awesome in that show. I think I told you that my boyfriend and I had never seen it, and only recently we were, during the times of COVID, we were like, what's something binge worthy? Let's check out Walking Dead. And we started slowly getting into it. And then, we completely and then all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, we're done with 10 seasons. How did that happen? Or 9 seasons. And we just couldn't stop. And you are such a shining light in that show. So it was just somehow fun. I enjoyed it. It was the perfect pandemic cozy up and just binge watch. You have such a solid presence in that show with so much quiet. One of my favorite things in acting and filmmaking and TV, obviously, is when an actor or director or the script is aware of the power of silence and the power of quietude. Like that. And eye contact, like the eyes being the actor, like not words, but the way someone looks and thinks. That has always moved me the most. And as an actor, I always gravitate to that kind of, those kind of actors. Or you in that show are like this grounding energy that is so magnetizing that you're just like, well, where the heck is Daryl? Get Daryl back on the screen. And I love that.
Yeah. Your brother's really good at that as well. He's like, you can turn the volume down and you're like, oh, he's great. It's going to be weird ending this show. Cause I've been here for so long. I don't know what to do with this house. And we're just, shutting it all down. Like, I'm going to miss this crew. I'm going to miss these people. Like, I just got off the phone with my agent, my manager, and I was like, I'm going to have a nervous fucking breakdown when this is over. I'm going to be like on the bathroom floor in tears. Like, and then I was thinking like, and this is such like a pussy thing to say, but like, I'm like, what happens if I get a flat? Like, I can't call transport. Like, how am I going to live my life? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what am I going to eat? Who's going to feed me? I just start having like all these breakdowns. Like, what, no one's going to call me and tell me to be somewhere. Like, what am I going to do?
I'm interested in sort of what Web3 is doing for artists, and NFTs as well for music and all these different new applications that is freeing up what had a lot more gatekeepers, and now it's freeing up for artists, especially in creative. So there's a lot of positivity to some of this technology that I'm keen on, and I've also been doing my own kind of research and deep dives, and we like LaunchLeft did create that NFT gallery for my own private Idaho, and so we've been sort of like checking it all out ourselves, and I do think that there's a lot of beauty in it for the art. And the potential of artists being able to make revenue without gatekeepers. Like, that is sweet. Yeah. That's what we think is a pretty sweet spot. But, like you said, there with everything, all this, there's always negative to positives. It's what we do. It's how we come to it. Is there an ethical framework? Are there principles behind it? And if there isn't, you can be guaranteed sure that there's going to be people using it in a way that like most of us would not resonate with or want to see it used, right? So
there's all these platforms where everyone can be artists, right? But, I don't know. I know a lot of painters and sculptors and writers, and there's something too about like, I like to have a manager, I like to have a curator or a gallery owner that will kind of like poke my buttons and talk about this and send me in this way or do me up against somebody else. I kind of like the buffer, to be honest, just like bleh, put it out there and see what they say and look what I did. Like, I don't like that. Like, I like to talk to somebody about putting the thing in the thing, I like somebody to get to know me. I like to get to know them, and I like the time spent to trust them and they trust me and sort of talk me through it. I don't, I like wearing sunglasses. I don't want everyone to see my eyes all the time. I like to have a buffer, and there's something to be said for that. Like a partner, like you have a partner in this avenue, a partner in that avenue. And when no one has partners anymore because they don't need partners anymore because the door is so wide open that anybody can do it, it just I just go, ah, it just looks like static to me. You know?
I agree. No, I completely agree. And I think that's good that you help clarify or help me clarify, because what I mean by no gatekeepers in terms of, for artists that you have to be a certain thing in order to even be considered to have a manager or an agent, right? You have to fit into like, you've streamed 2 million streams, or you've done this, and then maybe we'll consider you, as opposed to, there are some really brilliant artists out there that do have collaborative bodies, communities of people that are saying like, that sucks, that's good, and they're building worlds unto themselves. They know who they are. They're self-possessed, but gatekeepers in the sense of people stopping self-possessed, really talented artists from getting where, in their strange, esoteric, experimental way, getting where they need to be, where they can support themselves with their creativity. I am a huge advocate for curation. Like, to me, the idea that everybody should just make art whenever they want and we all have to like sift through it, I'm not a fan of that. That's to me the whole point of, one of the main, as you know, points of like what this platform is, LaunchLeft, is this idea that artists that have carved their own path against all odds, like achieve some kind of success, asking them to highlight someone new, because they know what that struggle is. And they're also curating someone so that it's not just a free for all, right? And even, for example, you've done things that were against your representatives a number of times, I'm sure, where they were like, but no, do the doctor show or whatever, and in your heart as a artist or creative, what is going to move you and what you can do and what you feel resonates with you and all that. And sometimes, having that conviction has led you to where now you have the freedom to do what you want. And you also have the freedom to help launch artists that don't have enough visibility in that way.
I used to live in LA, and I had a friend of mine who went to Otis Parsons, right? And so I kind of fell into this Otis crowd, right? And we did a show I did a show with this guy. And back then, like, you couldn't get anyone to go to an art show unless you had like an open bar and a band play. Like, nobody went. Mm-hmm. And then, people like Mr. Brainwash and all these people came out, and everyone's buying art, and everybody moves to LA because they're like, there's Brad Pitt bought a thing, and it becomes like everybody moves, right? I miss those days of like living in the garage and putting my own shit on the wall. And I miss that. And I know that I might get more shows now because I'm on a television show. I fucking know that, you know what I mean? Or get more notoriety for a show. But I know so many artists that are so good that haven't got the huge notoriety or whatever, and they totally deserve it. And filmmakers, there's a girl named Ada Blegard Solby in Denmark who's fucking great. I mean, like, honest as shit, like, so good. And I know her in this weird fucking way. But and then Jake, who I think we were talking about, Insta Stupid, yeah, he's so good. And I found him through Instagram. So right. I do think that social media sometimes, like, if you follow somebody and you can get their vibe, you're like, oh shit, they're great. There's a girl named Mercedes Helmwine who I fucking love. She's in LA. She's fucking great. I've got like here, that's one of her paintings right there on the wall. Do you remember this old band called, from the 80s called The Scorpions? Yeah. Do you remember this band? Do you remember the album cover of a guy and he's like got forks in his eyes and he's screaming and his head's wrapped? It's one of their album covers. That's a self-portrait her father did. He's the sickest fucking artist, this guy. Wow. And it happens to be his daughter. And, I do think it's possible for, like what you're saying, the people who have it, their time in the sun for a second and their stuff sucks. Like, I feel like it'll fizzle away. But, I read this interview. I'm kind of all over the place, but I read this interview with Nicolas Cage once where it was around the time he did Leaving Las Vegas, and a huge Nicolas Cage fan, right? And he wrote this thing about being in his car and driving cross country because he was feeling too successful. He started to feel like he was getting soft. He wanted to get like dirty again, you know? And I was like, oh, I fucking love that about that guy. But yeah, you know, I've done it, I guess, with a lot of people, sort of, I don't know, promoted their stuff or whatever, but only because I'm a fan. And when they talk, I shut up, you know? I learn a lot from, you know, from people that are like really doing it, you know? And there was a guy that, talking about the Otis Parson guy, this guy named Josh Littman, and he taught me how to cut rock, right? And we did this show in Beverly Hills, and this is like, you know, me with a poncho, like blue hair, I'm scared of everybody, and I'm that guy for a while. And we did this show, and I took this little skinny girl that I knew, and I plastered her body, and I elongated her at the knees and the elbows, and made these creatures. And there was a paper out there called The Recycler, and I got these 7 giant French doors out of it. And I put her on all these things, and I cocooned her in all these different gauges of wire, and sort of made this metal souffle of these images on these 7 things. And I used these glass wig heads and fucking did all this shit and put lights up in them and did all these things. And it was so disturbing, right? And I was just like a disturbed guy back then. But I was too nervous to go to the show. So these 2 girls I know, they had a truck, and I told them where I wanted to put the things. And this was in a restaurant in Beverly Hills where it was between ownerships of it, and they let us put a show on in there. And I was too nervous to go, but I had kind of like the VIP room of it. And they told me, you know, first off, the guy Josh, who taught me how to cut rock, he did this crazy shit where he changed the flooring in the opening of this place, and he was DJing at the same time, and there were colors up in the ground in these, I don't know, he did something with tiles in the floor, and as he hit a certain beat, the colors of the floor would change. They would bounce with the bass, and he and this other guy, we were taking these box frames, right? And it was a guy, his name was T-Rick. He was the fucking coolest guy. He lived over in that Western, on Western Street and above Sunset, Hollywood Boulevard, like Western area.
Let's feel it. Yeah.
And he was studying sound and how sound, different vibrations of sound, like subliminal sound, will like fuck with your mental, like make you fucking aggro, fucking subdue you, whatever. And he was amplifying things in box springs. Like, we were doing crazy shit back then. And, you know, there were people, Josh calls me, right? And he's like, I know you didn't go to the show tonight, but people were like, they come in like, kiss, fucking me. And they'd walk down the hallway and they'd get to like where your shit was. And they would just like come out of the room, like completely fucked up. And I was like, yeah, Beverly Hills, fuck you. It was such a success story for me, you know. I miss all those fucking days. And like, there was a guy named Joey Krebs. He did like that Rage Against the Machine album cover, you know, with the silhouettes, and he would do silhouettes all over LA, like Santa, Satan, and, you know, all these silhouettes everywhere. And there was a girl named Becca who, she would always do these big blonde, like heroic girls boxing, and they would plaster them all over LA. It was like a really cool time in the 90s in LA when we were doing like crazy shit. And I remember like, it was like Jane's Addiction was just first starting out, and, you know, and Perry and I became friends. And I met Perry back when he was with Casey, and it was crazy. There was this dude, like, his name was, we used to call him Punk Rock Chuck, and he had like green hair and these little granny glasses. And he's like, come with me to this party. And I was like, all right. So he takes me to this party, and there's all these girls like standing around by themselves. I'm like, yo, why are these girls just like standing around by themselves? And he's like, oh, this is a Heidi Fleiss party. I'm like, what's a Heidi Fleiss party? And Casey came up to me, and she was like, you know Casey Nicole?
No.
This is ages ago, right? And she comes up and she's like, what do you do? I'm like, I don't know. What do you do? And she's like, I'm only one of the biggest video directors in town. And I was like, yeah, I know what you do, right? Just to be a dick, right? And she puts out her cigarette on Chuck's leg. And then I meet Perry, but Joey, who does the silhouettes, I'm sitting with Perry, and there used to be this place, Ledoux, right?
Oh, yes. Very 90s.
And I was sitting there with Perry, and we had this marker, and we were drawing on our plates at a table, and this fuzzy hat comes bouncing through the room, and Perry goes, oh, fuck, it's him, and like bolts out the back. And I'm like, that's Joey. He used to go by the LA Phantom when he did the silhouettes and stuff. And he used to wear this big furry hat, and it's like furry hats comes bouncing to the crowd, and fucking Perry runs. I'm like, what the fuck did you do to Perry? Like he saw your hat and he ran. He goes, I don't know. He just always runs from me. There was like such like a weird, cool, artistic crowd going around back then. It was just like the coolest vibe back then. Like I miss those days. Everybody was so good, and everybody was like just fucking killing it and didn't give a shit. There was no social media.
Yeah, it's wild. So I love hearing you wax nostalgic for a simpler time because I'm also a 90s kid. I came up in the 90s. I grew up in the 90s. So
like you remember when Jane's Addiction first came out? You were like, I remember being downtown at Fatima and Tarsim's Halloween party, and I was blue. For some reason, I wanted to be a blue horse, and I didn't look like a horse at all, but I was blue. And I'm kind of walking through this fucking huge crowd downtown, like right near Skid Row. They had this loft. And I hear this lady, right? And she's like, I see you, you motherfuckers. And I'm like, what's that? And I sort of go through the crowd, and there's this lady, and she's kind of like, got like arthritis fingers. And she's like, I see you, you motherfuckers. And all of a sudden Perry comes out, and he's like, sugar, sugar, sugar. And you're just like, holy fuck, like, what's that? It was like the greatest fucking time.
It's always fun to go down a little bit of memory lane. So thank you for sharing, especially here in LA, because that makes sense in terms of cause and effect. When I moved back here, I was in New York, and I moved back here in 2009 to LA because I got signed here to an indie label with the record I was putting out. And there was something about the collaborative energy in LA between artists in the music industry. Like it was an industry, actually. It felt like in the music scene, like people were just sharing and helping each other. If one was bigger, they were like, open for me. And, it was a much better vibe than it was in New York at the time for a struggling indie or a musician kind of thing. So we came here, and it just opened up, the world kind of opened up again within that scene of artists, right? But it was at the dawn of Instagram. Well, so, it's so interesting when it brings us back kind of in a circuitous way to the beginning of the conversation, or to maybe it wasn't the beginning, but when we were talking about, connection, real connection versus connection within apps or connecting virtually, right? So IRL versus in the metaverse, so to speak, in real life versus in the metaverse. And there is, and it might just be because we're old though, Norman. Like I think the kids would be like, there's no difference. This is all we've ever known. This is the future. You are the olds. Fuck off.
Yeah. I don't know. It's got to come back around, like
vinyl.
You got, you have to give a little credit for the suffering that, you got to suffer a little bit to do something good. You can't just fake it till you make it. I think that's a very weird Hollywood sort of fucking idea now, but we can tell the difference. It seems like a fad, that thing of, I don't know. It's, there are friends of mine. I'm like, what have you been doing for the last 20 years? They're like, oh, I, did this back in the 90s. And you're like, what are you doing now? Which I like about New York, because you can't, I shot the Chili Peppers in 94. You can't, you have to fucking do something this year, to keep it going in New York. So I like that about New York. But I think that the Insta fame thing is a killer, you know. You know what I mean? And there has been like social media people who have like a bazillion followers and all of a sudden they're movie stars, and it doesn't really work, you know. It doesn't really go past 2 or 3 movies, you know. So I don't know. I do like the directors that look for something real, and the actors that give something real, and the musicians that sing about something real. You know, I like all that. I think it's got to come back. You know, I don't think it's even fucking gone away.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's never left. It's never left.
Yeah.
I'm so happy you said, because that's what LaunchLeft. That's why I put down this flag. That's what this is a conversation to remind us that never goes away. That's who we are. If you're a creative, which I think everyone is, we all have this power within us, then you would be doing stuff because you actually fucking can't help yourself. So any more people off the top of your head, doesn't matter what art, could be a chef that you know, could be that you want to just say their name out loud. It will help people go search their Instagram handles and all that.
There's a guy named Azazel Jacobs. Do you know him? He's out in LA. His father's Ken Jacobs, that experimental filmmaker. But Azazel, he just had a hit movie, like his first like big, you know, movie, whatever, called was it Last Exit? It's with Michelle Pfeiffer.
I didn't see it.
The last big movie she did, but it got great reviews. But that guy, he's a one to watch. He's the real fucking deal. I think he lives in Silver Lake right now. He's from New York. He's fucking great. I remember doing a movie with him a zillion years ago. And it's me and Trisha Vesey, who's a great actress. She was in Ghost Dog. She was that lead girl in Ghost Dog. She's a really good actress. She did a Claire Denis movie with Vincent Gallo, where they're like vampires thirsting on each other. But Azazel is great. I know him. I mean, going back to 9/11, he did this crazy thing. He had a place in Dumbo, and on the roof he had a camera that he faced towards the Twin Towers while they were burning, but the roof door of goes to the stairwell to the roof was bang, bang, bang with the Twin Towers in the background, like bang, bang, and then over it he played his answering machine, right, his phone, and so it's like. He's like, Ozza, where are you? I can't get you on the phone. Like, Ozza, it's your mom. Please call me. You know, like, it was the most haunting, fucking thing. One of the most haunting things I've ever seen. But he's coming into his own as a filmmaker. Like, he's starting to get like really recognized. Like, people want him for everything now. But great. I knew him way back when. You know.
How about music? Are there any like music you've heard that no one's heard of yet? Maybe that.
I'm friends with Orville Peck, and he too is becoming a superstar right now.
Yeah, he's great. Yeah.
He and I share the same birthday.
Oh, nice. Like Mick Rock and I. Bless his heart. Yeah. Rest in peace.
Yeah.
Yeah, Orville's talk about magnetizing. It runs in your birthday, I guess, because you both have that, like, you're drawn to you. You want to watch, listen, whatever you're doing, I'm with you. What's going on? You know, you have that energy.
I loved him immediately. Like, he's going to come out to Georgia. We're going to do a music video. Cool. I think at the end of this month, maybe. But I got really into RuPaul's Drag Race. Like, I got like obsessed with it. Like, to the point where I could tell who was going to win. How RuPaul like said, I've made my decision. Like I fucking could pick it. And Orville's really good friends with Trixie Mattel, who's kind of like one of my favorites. And then they sent me a picture of them together. I was like, you guys know each other? Like, my mind was like, boom, boom. Orville I really love as a musician. Who do I know that's
any folk artists there in Georgia that you've clocked or is on set, like, just that you've seen their work or anything local to Georgia?
that there were two girls on an episode of us that we did in Tennessee. I can't remember their names right now. If you watch the Ride episode of us in Tennessee, there were two girls that were fucking mind blowing. I can't remember their name right now.
Okay, that's from your show Ride in Tennessee. I'm going to ask you, what was the first music that made you go, what the fuck?
Was Laurie Anderson. Laurie Anderson, she was married to Lou Reed for a long time. So my mom took me to a concert in San Francisco. And I was too little, like my feet couldn't touch the ground. I was like really little. And she took me to this concert of hers, and I'm sitting there and I'm kind of nervous, like my first big concert. And she comes out in the glow-in-the-dark outfit and the glow-in-the-dark violin, and she's like, and then only her head pops up on a giant screen behind her. And it's that song Sharky's Day. And she goes, the sun's coming up like a big bald head. And that's where I got Big Bald Head. That's where that comes from.
Amazing.
That was my first concert. And it always stuck with me. That's why I'm Big Bald Head.
That is so, thank you for sharing that. With the world being as it is, what's your form of activism? Like, what do you feel called to help out with?
I think the planet the most. I think that's the big one right now. Laurie Anderson, my first concert. Yeah.
What filmmaker made you go, what film? Most influential film?
The Omen.
Fine artist.
Hieronymus Bosch.
You and David Lynch picked the same fine artist.
Shit, no way.
God, that's so awesome.
Yeah,
well, I would love an advanced copy of your book to read.
Sure. Yeah.
Whenever you want. And I'm really excited about your production company and that you're going to be making interesting films and TV shows. Like, I'm so grateful for your graciousness and sharing all this time with me.
Oh, it was my pleasure. Yeah, it was nice to reconnect with you.
I know. It's been too long. And we'll obviously keep in touch and send your beautiful family, the ones who bring you the most joy of all the things in your life, my best. Welcome to the show. You're here because Norman Reedus told us that we should know about your art and your work and your creativity. And my burning question for you is, at what age did you just start making things?
Quite young. I started throwing pottery probably around 3 or 4. Got into pottery and sculpting early on, then progressed from there into soapstone. Learned the steps in soapstone and carving, and then went into marble. I went to a pretty great high school in Vermont that had a wonderful sculpting program. I don't know, sculpting, pottery, marble, soapstone, skateboarding took over my life, I guess is what I was going to say. Moved to New York, broke every bone in my body, and took a bit of a hiatus with art. Went back into it probably about 10 years ago. But very young, pottery. Pottery is what started it. I found it very cathartic.
In sculpture, I noticed you use wood and stone and bones and different. Was it just trial by error, or you?
No, I mean, I co-own a store called The Hunt. It's an antique store and kind of oddities and jewelry and our own brand. And we started that on the basis of opening a store to sell stuff that we loved, and it worked out. We're going on our 10th year here in New York. I mean, I think when you make art, you gotta, it's the point of making it. If you don't like it yourself, at some point you gotta want to fucking fuck with the materials and have fun doing it and try and make something that makes you happy. Hopefully it makes other people happy or evicts some sort of emotion in them, love, hate, or indecisiveness, whatever it may be.
Yeah. And where is The Hunt in New York?
27 Canal Street. Yeah.
Okay. So for those of you watching and listening, go to The Hunt.
The Hunt NYC, yeah. Well,
do you know Norman Reedus?
I consider Norman one of my best buds, yeah. I think we knew each other. I've lived in New York now for almost, I think, going on 25 years. But he came into the shop after he saw some stuff I was doing, this gold series where I was dipping shark jaws in 24 karat gold. And I'd never had my name on my Instagram. So he came into the store and wrote his number down on the email list book. And that's how we got reacquainted. And then he, became one of my most avid collectors and godsend. He's a wonderful human being.
Well, your work is beautiful. Can you share with everyone how we can find it on social media and websites or any of that?
Yeah. Right now, we're redoing my website. It might be kind of minimally up, which is just my name.com. And Instagram is kind of where I'll be posting stuff I'm about to do my first NFT drop. Something I was a bit reluctant to get into, but learning more about it, I think it's an important thing. And yeah, my Instagram is InstaStupid, InstaStupid.
LaunchLeft aims to create an intentional space that highlights and empowers all artists for whom radical creativity is not a choice, but a necessity. LaunchLeft begins with music, but its ultimate aim is to launch left-of-center artists in all creative fields.